Hey everybody, how's it going? All right, walking home from school. I'm loading these at different times than I'm actually recording them. So if it looks like they're like being shot in the same day, it's because they are. So just kind of what works out best sometimes. But that being said, let's jump into it. So we're talking about doctrine. I was listening to someone talk about just different religions today actually, and their idea was kind of like, well, saying that all Christians believe this or believe that can't really be the case because it's 2,000 years later. Look at all the denominations, look at all the people that say they're Christians. And if I'm being real honest, I'm going to call shenanigans. Like, I understand that idea, but that's not true. Because there can be people thinking that they agree with something or saying that they are something and not being that thing. Just because we want something to be true or because we think that our way of doing something is the right way doesn't make that the case. And that's true for me. With all the things that I've told you guys over the last several videos, hey, don't take my word for it. Go to the Bible. I'm just as fallible and wrong and pig-headed as anybody else in the world. But the Word of God's the Word of God, and what it says is what it says. Now we can go, well, this is what I believe it says, but that doesn't necessarily mean that is what it says, and we need to be careful about that. And the Bible is true and good. And when it says, hey, this is what a Christian looks like, that's what a Christian looks like, whether we want that to be the case or not, or whether we have different opinions as to what that thing may be. Doctrines exist, not because I want them to exist, or not because there's been a certain number of people or men throughout history who've said this is what Christianity will be. No, doctrines exist because that's how reality works. Everything has a thing that makes it what it is. And sometimes it's not easy to point at, but sometimes it is. And we have a written word of God that tells us what's true and what's not. And I just want to say, hey, doctrines are real. So now let's talk about our doctrine for today. It's called the fall. If you go into a bookstore, and maybe you don't go into many, but I'd encourage you next time you're in Blacksburg or whatever, and you go to that GameStop next to the Barnes & Noble, just pop into the Barnes & Noble. Huge section, probably the biggest section they've got is on self-help. Man, we all know the world is broken. And you want to know how I know that? Because we all elect new leaders. Shoot. In America, our Constitution says, hey, that dude's probably not going to be right for more than 8 years max, so you got to get a new one. All right? The world's broken. The Bible calls this the fall. Happens in Genesis 3. And what happens is God created everything good and perfect. And he put his image bearers, man, in charge of all of it. And he said, hey, I need you to love me, follow me, trust me, because I know what's best for you. Just like a mom and dad knows way better than a 2-year-old. He knows what's best for us, and so he tells them, hey, this is what's best for us. And they don't listen to that. They rebel against God. And although God would be in his cosmic rights to have destroyed Adam and Eve where they stood, he didn't. He issues a curse to all the world, which is why the world just in and of itself is broken. And we as image bearers fall. And that's why sin originates in us. The bad things we do doesn't make us a sinner. We're sinners by nature, and that results in us doing bad things. But in Genesis 3, and I'd encourage you to read it, the good news is that when God's given this curse, he also gives the promise that he will one day fix it in the death and resurrection of his son, Jesus Christ. This is very short, pithy about what the fall is. If you've got any questions, please put them down below. Love you guys.